pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, 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 pineapple. Looking very good, very nice.
Gonna do, they not even gonna, honestly, they're about to outlaw the idea of white supremacy and white hate. Like, they are about to be like, oh, that's not a thing. Forget the fact that you're talking about getting rid of like the classification for nooses in a time in which we have seen these random black bodies be strung up down south. Also, seemingly at a time in which you're back in office, because what you do is you embolden the hate, you embolden everybody to take off their hoods. That is what he has done. He is the one that is producing this violence. Listen, what you gonna do?
Good morning, Jefferson City, Missouri, streaming live from the heart of Missouri, the heart of the United States of America, verified and blue-checked United States of America. God bless America. God bless you. Thank you for joining the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We're hanging out with Cat Dad, Quest Fanning, Amy J. Ease, Nelson65, John and KC, and anybody else who's joining us live over rumble.com who is a confirmed American. But even if you're not, if you're a regular viewer of the Wake Up America show, like Paul Southcott from the Isle of Alderney, we say you are an honorary American. Doesn't come with citizenship. All right, liberty lovers, caffeine addicts, and the brave souls who refuse to let the deep state gaslight them before breakfast. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm Austin Peterson. It's a fortress of freedom here in Jefferson City, Missouri. Grab your founding flavors coffee at forlibertyshop.com. Delicious. Today's lineup is wild enough to make Patrick Henry spit out his porridge. We're going to begin this morning with something straight out of a digital Cold War thriller. Over the weekend, X rolled out a tiny update. Nothing big. It was called About This Account. Those three little words changed the world over the weekend. Innocent little phrase. Sounds like something you'd click on Etsy to see who crocheted your scarf. Instead, users clicked it and found out that half of their favorite patriots were not from the United States. They were MAGA from India. We knew this was happening. The nearest American flag hanging in their location, the closest American flag to wherever they are, is wherever the closest CIA headquarters is in their country. No, Austin, not the CIA. They put a chip in my brain. When you said a government put a chip in my brain, I almost pooped my pants. Who can name that film? All right, so grab some Jeffersonian Java if you're feeling frisky. It's time. We're going to talk about Russia, Nigeria, Thailand, Eastern Europe. One guy claiming to be a trucker from Indiana was posting at 2 a.m. Indiana time, which just so happens to be lunchtime in Bucharest. People thought they were arguing with MAGA veterans. Turns out they were fighting with a Bulgarian guy named Sasho, who probably runs 9 sock puppets and a crypto pump and dump scheme on the side. And the funniest and the most revealing part of all this, I would say, is the people most loudly screaming, "Real Americans think like this," were not Americans at all. They weren't even pretending very well. One of the loudest America First accounts turned out to be from Niger, the country, not the word your mother told you not to ever say around polite company. Niger. Our friend Adam Coleman saw that map pop up this weekend. He delivered the line of the century when he posted, "Niger, please." I love it. So I was like, book that man on the show. He will be on the Wake Up America show. But God is my witness. So we've got Adam Coleman on the show today at 8:30 a.m. Central, which means you have to watch the whole show, all 2 hours. I don't care where you are or what you're doing this morning. You clear your schedule and you hang out here with us for the next 2 hours. It's going to be a fun Freedom Fest for 2 straight hours. I'm going to leave you guys in a good mood. Don't I always leave you guys on a good mood? Don't I? Don't you watch the Wake Up America show? Don't you wish your podcast was hot like me? Drew Van Runkle, Quest Fanning, YO Wildman, Mighty Megatron, Grizz Cheese, a Real Hunter Human. Of course, that's why you're here. So while you're here, don't forget to click the like button and follow as well. We're going to have a lot of fun goofing with Adam Coleman about this. But let's be serious for just a moment, because the weekend, it did show something very real. It exposed the illusion of size behind parts of the groyper ecosystem. Many of the loudest voices, Trump betrayed us. Israel controls everything. Ukraine is a psyop and everything is rigged. Those accounts, suddenly we learn, some people learn, I always knew, some people learn they're posting from places that don't even have a constitutional republic, let alone a target. So today we're digging deep into what we call the LARP economy, right? Foreign actors posing as American patriots to fracture the right, warp debates, and push emotional extremism over sound money, free markets, and individual liberty. What the United States was based on? Let me tell you about your country. Good morning, pineapples. Let me tell you why you need more Muslim mosques. Let me tell you about your country. Good morning, pineapples. Let me tell you about what it means to be a real American. Let me tell you why Ronald Reagan sucks. Let me tell you why you should hate your country. You should hate your people. No, I don't think so. Is anyone surprised to learn the entire Liberty Network is American? When you say entire, Real Hunter Human in the chat, I'm pretty sure proves that wrong because he's from Argentina. Now, the Argentines, all of our Argentine libertarian friends are what I will say, I would call them honorary Americans. They didn't pretend to be American nationalists. They had no reason to be. They elected the most libertarian president in all of human history, Javier Milei, which was still punching out wins here while libertarians in the United States just keep, receiving L's. Can we get dubs in the chat? Can we get some W's in the chat for liberty in the United States? Why must we look south to our Argentine brothers when Doge has become defunct and no longer exists? Trump took one look at Doge and said, "It's gone, baby, gone." So what kinds of W's can we have for liberty in the United States? Well, one man, I think, I won't say stands alone. There are certainly people who agree with me. Many of the people who watch this show agree with me. But you know what? I see that there are some potential wins for liberty in this country, and I'm going to chart out the path. Am I the only one who sees the silver linings in these clouds? I'm talking to Camellia these days. She's so black-pilled. I talk to all my liberty friends. They're either out of it or they're running for the hills, and I'm over here in Valley Forge making onion soup. Well, I even managed to find some Swiss cheese, and I'm putting it in the oven and putting it on top, and I made a little French bread baguette because of that guy not Baron von Steuben's tent had one. So I'm making a little French onion soup in Valley Forge. What about you? Guess what? guess what? Liberty can still reign in America. There could still be wins for victory if we embrace the spirit of what made America great. You know who made America great again? Ronald Reagan. That was his phrase. There's a lot to learn and remember from Ronald Reagan that are good things. I remember when I first went and worked at the Libertarian National Convention in 2008, the Watergate Hotel. I opened up the books. People, that is when I first started hearing all the Reagan hate. And the libertarians were telling me about his compromises on gun control. And they were telling me about his compromises on spending. And they told me about his, and then the conservatives nowadays are like, well, we hate Reagan because he of immigration. And through all this, I go back to my time as a small child. It's just a little anecdote, I know. As a small child, sitting on my father's shoulders, watching Ronald Reagan getting off of the airplane in Kansas City Airport. I must have been like 2, but I remember this because of the strong emotional feeling from my father, the sense of national pride as Reagan showed up, going home, watching Back to the Future and Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger and experiencing the greatness of American culture at its zenith in the 80s and early 90s, growing up as a kid. You want to talk about making America great again? Ra-ta-ta-ta. Remember when the whole world loved us and weren't all foreign trolls trying to destroy the United States? Well, no, they were foreign trolls trying to destroy the United States, except we didn't get a good picture of it because we didn't have the internet yet. But now we know how many people around the world truly hate America. And now that the foreign trolls have been exposed, it's time to purge. It's time to clear the ranks. You know, I thought about this over the weekend. With libertarians, it's always force. You're using force, not aggression principle. Force. But let me tell you something. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Here it is. It's 7:19 already. You guys ready for the pain? Here we go. Here's the truth. What about the fraud? If libertarians actually took a moment to talk about all the fraud that goes on, you would talk about the libertarian W's will never commence until we get rid of all of the libertarian fraud that's going around. Fraud. What about the fraud? We can't because too many of the frauds are perpetrated by libertarians. 9/11 truth, chemtrails, vaxxers, all of the conspiracy theories that we have so wasted our brain cells and space on. What if it is aliens this time, man? Frauds. Pretending to be an American national while not. Fraud. What are the consequences for fraud? We focus so much on oh my God, it's violence and the neocons are going to bomb Iran and all that. What about the fraud? What about all the frauds? Did Alex Jones commit fraud when he lied about Sandy Hook and the parents? Is that fraud? Is it fraud? So ask yourself. Fraud. If we persecuted and prosecuted fraud, how many people who are the biggest frauds in politics in the United States, how many more of them would be going to jail because we went after the frauds? Frauds. What should be the consequences for frauds? And I saw people yesterday saying things because of course, there were some people who were at least savvy enough to know when we start talking about things like fraud, what kind of consequences should there be for pretending to be an American? What would the consequences for fraud be? It's like, well, we don't want to demonetize them. Excuse me? I am not a fraud and I am demonetized on YouTube. Demonetized. This is not a freedom of speech issue here. YouTube should not be forced by the government to pay me for my opinions if they don't want to have me have my opinions on their social network and pay me for that. That is their right as Americans. However, that's why Rumble exists. And did you guys notice? Look at that. Who's going to be the first person to tip us in crypto? Fraud. Vote by mail in 2020. Biggest fraud. Exactly. Fraud. It's all fraud. There's so much fraud. The system is rife with fraud. There has to be some punishment for us. So I said demonetize these accounts. Listen, if you're a foreigner and you're commenting on American politics, fine. It's fine. But if you're pretending to be an American and stirring up trouble in the United States, what should be I think demonetization is the least of what should occur to those people. This is not deplatforming people. This is not taking away their ability to earn a living. They can go do something else, but it limits their ability to commit fraud and do so for financial gain. That has to stop. Now that we know who these foreign trolls are, it's time for us to go after them for fraud. And some of them might even need to be criminally prosecuted. Some of them should probably be criminally prosecuted for for just for misrepresenting themselves while trying to impact an election alone. You realize that if you were a Republican who did anything like what these foreign people had done, if you were a Republican, you'd done anything like that, you'd end up in jail. There was a guy who went to jail because he posted a joke meme about voting on Tuesday instead of Monday when it was the Hillary Clinton 2016 election. You got to understand fraud. Frog. So then there's Marjorie Taylor Greene, which is the kind of the carnival circus sideshow that wishes it was the main event. So her resignation video is basically the Mad Libs of every grievance known to online politics. Neocons, Big Pharma, it's the Jews or why I'm a failure, military industrial complex, elites, foreign leaders. Stop me when this starts sounding like the comment section on a Telegram channel run by a guy with 13 followers and a stock photo of George Washington smoking a blunt. But here's the important point. Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying to drag principled libertarians like Rand Paul and Thomas Massie into her meltdown black hole orbit. And this is where we have to draw the line, because those guys are not like Marjorie Taylor Greene. They have a coherent worldview, okay? They didn't build their careers on QAnon prophecies, space laser posts, and pretending every spending bill is tyranny until Trump tells them to vote yes. Okay, so in A2, we're going to do a little political surgery. We're separating the philosophically grounded anti-interventionists from the conspiratorial, algorithm-chasing isolationism that Marjorie Taylor Greene rode like a mechanical bull until it launched her through the saloon doors. Yeehaw! Now, Massie and Paul can still escape the blast radius, but not if they let her define what America First means, okay? And then B1 today, or I guess 8 a.m., we're going to pivot to something that I guess I should say it should surprise me, but it doesn't anymore. That's that Trump met with Zoran Mandani, and the meeting was cordial. And we were looking for fireballs in the book of Revelation, but both men walked away talking about affordability, housing, childcare, utilities, etc. When a socialist and a populist find common ground, there's an earthquake coming. So I'm bringing on John Miltimore to explain what the two of them might actually agree on at 8 a.m. Central and what they absolutely don't. And finally, Adam Coleman joins us to go right back into the belly of the beast, the foreign troll farms masquerading as American patriots. Adam has been ahead of this story for years. He's been warning everyone about identity LARPing. People pretending to be black, pretending to be conservative, pretending to be Christian, pretending to be American, and now the receipts are flowing in like a busted hydrant. So we'll talk about the manipulation, the emotional sabotage, the chaos factor overseas, and why Adam's two-word masterstroke, Niger, please, might be the most honest commentary of the whole weekend. What about Netanyahu buying TikTok and laundering his policies under American influencers? Did they buy TikTok? It's still Chinese owned to my knowledge. We'll talk about the chaos factories overseas. It's going to be an interesting conversation. And just so you know, it's time for you to saddle up, contact your local psychic, remove your VPN. It's time to wake up America. Let's go. All right, brothers and sisters in liberty, gather around. Before we get this started, I just want to remind you all that the bonus content is live and available for you to unlock at 3 different levels. If we raise $100 in Rumble rants or Bitcoin contributions, did you notice Drew Van Runkle? Rumble wallet just dropped over the weekend as well. If we raise $100 in either Rumble rants, cryptocurrency tips, or in purchases at forlibertyshop.com, then that will unlock phase 1 of the bonus content. $150 unlocks our game show mode where you can play and win prizes from the Liberty Shop at forlibertyshop.com. But if you guys hit $200, you're going to get a sweet Christmas solo sung by me. I'll be home for Christmas. You can plan on me. So make sure that you guys keep those Rumble rants flowing. Make contributions in Bitcoin or in Tether. Oh boy, look at that. That's not a good sign. Oh boy, here we go. I'll just let it dangle there for a second, you know what I'm saying? So if it sounds a little, oh God, shouldn't have done that. Why couldn't you leave well enough alone? So if it sounds a little bit weird, it's because the microphone is. I'm just gonna let it dangle right there. Let's see. Hold on. Hopefully that won't be too weird. We'll just make it work. So unlock the bonus content, guys. Make sure that we hit that $100 level at a minimum this morning. But I know you guys love the games that we play. So at $150 raised this morning, then we will play the game. So then at $200, that's the song. Bamboo 88 just joined us. Good morning. Looking very good and very nice. All right, guys. So the internet ripped its mask off like Scooby-Doo episodes. And instead of Old Man Jenkins, we found a Bulgarian crypto miner pretending to be a Tennessee patriot with an eagle avatar, 1776 in their username, and a great ass in the AI images that they posted online. So over the weekend, X rolled out this new transparency tool called About This Account. It's supposed to help users check the account authenticity and instantly, like a contagion spreading across the battlefield, people realizing a shocking number of high follower accounts, American nationalist accounts, are not American at all. And this is a global phenomenon. You would expect something like this, and it sounds like, just kind of normal internet hijinks until you realize that a lot of these people stir up a lot of hatred and are foreign actors interfering in American politics and other global politics. Remember Yoko Ishii, the Japanese conservative female who was on our show just last week? Remember Yoko? Well, we had a great conversation on our show. And then after this happened, I see Yoko-san is out there fighting this guy who's pretending to be a Japanese nationalist, but he's really from Europe. And it's one of those weebs who wishes he was Japanese, so he pretends to be. And now he got outed. And if you haven't read Yoko Ishii's going after this guy, it is so funny. I love this video that's posted because they were making fun about how he would say that he would go to a Yokohama Family Mart on the daily basis. So somebody made a video of him traveling, making his daily commute to the Yokohama Family Mart. Look at the airport that he starts in and see where he goes. From London, Belgium, to Turkey. And that's from an actual Japanese person that posted that. Laughing so hard. Is Cat Turd one of them? Drew Van Runkle made a $1 contribution. Broke for a few weeks. Appreciate you. Boss got herself an e-bike yesterday. That's funny. Just don't forget, Drew, if you have an Android phone, Rumble has now their own wallet where you can you can tip Bitcoin. We can tip it back and forth. You don't have to be a streamer to be able to use Rumble Wallet. It's a really exciting new feature, and I'm going to talk more about that later. So these people who are pretending to be American nationalists, many of them, they're not even Canadian. They are Russian, Nigerian, Pakistani, Thai, Eastern European. According to The Guardian, many of the so-called MAGA influencers with American flags are operating from outside the U.S. with no disclosure and a whole lot of digital attitude and problems that they bring to our countries. So this is the political equivalent of the guy in your gym who's yelling, "Let's go Brandon," in the locker room, doesn't even live in the country whose president he's shouting about. And the funniest part, or maybe the saddest part, is that a ton of these accounts were lecturing everyone else about patriotism, sovereignty, and what makes a real American. And of course, they're not Americans, and they're convincing a lot of Americans about these malign outsider worldviews, and telling us what our country is like. This is why you really avoid arguing with strangers online, says Amy J. Ease. Amen. This is why you're a professional, Amy. She's a professional. So the Daily Beast dropped this bombshell list of accounts that marketed themselves as MAGA spiritual leaders, America First prophets, and they were posting from time zones that line up better with Moscow and Lagos than Missouri. This is where it gets fascinating for our movement, because something deeper is happening. Thank you, St. Selma. This exposes the enormous foreign LARP economy. There's millions of dollars tied up into this economy, and it has quietly infused itself into the American right. And this isn't just a right-wing thing as well. Left-wing activists have been fooled by foreign sock puppets since Occupy Wall Street days. Anonymous was 40% Brazilian teenagers. Socialism Reddit is run like a Chilean Minecraft server. But this weekend, the curtain was pulled back specifically on a swath of anti-Israel, anti-Ukraine, anti-NATO, America alone accounts that were operating under the MAGA banner. And now they're being unmasked at scale. And here's the key. These are some of the very accounts that have been trying to steer the MAGA base away from Donald Trump and towards the more isolationist conspiratorial wing that we're going to be talking about this morning. And suddenly the whole geopolitical map looks very different. A lot of the accounts claiming Trump sold out, Israel controls everything, and Ukraine is a psyop, and that the military-industrial complex is coming for your toaster, which you will need a license to use, and so on, turn out to be operating from regions where stirring distrust and chaos in Western politics is a national pastime. Right? The Verge reported that this new tool reveals the scale of X's foreign troll problem and warns that the numbers are far bigger than previously thought. So let's pause here and just appreciate the full cosmic comedy of this, because the people who screamed the loudest about foreign influence were often the very accounts that were the foreign influence. So this is the Ouroboros of digital politics, right? This is the snake eating its own tweet, right? It's two non-Americans fighting over what it means to be an American. Let me tell you about one from Pakistan, one from India. Nope, you bloody bastard. You bloody, you bloody, oh, you bloody. You bloody bastard, you bloody bastard, oh, you bloody, and they're bloody not Americans. They're both, one's Pakistani, one's Indian. You bloody bastard. So let's bring it home for our side, the liberty side of this. A lot of Americans on the right thought that they were surrounded by a rising tide of grassroots nationalist contrarianism, especially on Israel. Suddenly they're realizing a good chunk of that chorus was coming from servers east of Warsaw. Now, that doesn't mean that these ideas have no domestic support, but it means that the size and organizational discipline of that support was massively inflated by foreign actors with a very obvious strategic incentive. It was very clear what they wanted to accomplish here. They wanted to fracture the Republican coalition. They wanted to amplify the craziest voices that to divide the movement from within and weaken Trump's foreign policy stance, right? Russia gets what it wants, chaos in the West. Iran gets what it wants, weakening Israel. China gets what it wants, American political disorientation. And some dude in Kharkiv gets $75 a month to run an account called Texan Patriot 1776. Did you guys see the Muslim cowboy pretended to be from Texas, advocating for radical Islam and Sharia law here in the United States? Yeah, it turns out he's from Saudi Arabia. Now, the real political question becomes, what does this mean for 2026 and 2028? Because right now, Trump's coalition is preparing for a long transition period, right? The primary factions inside the right, populists, libertarians, corporate conservatives, Christian nationalists, neocons, MAGA traditionalists, they're already testing the fences. And these foreign LARP accounts were serving as accelerants. They were arsonists in a gasoline factory. So they fueled the Marjorie Taylor Greene anti-Israel drift. They amplified the Trump is a traitor angle after he fired her out of a cannon. Quite hilarious. They boosted every infighting narrative to weaken the GOP and its ideological coherence. And look what happened when the curtains opened. A whole chunk of Marjorie Taylor Greene's movement turns out not to have been American at all. This is why Trump's MAGA base remains the dominant real world force. Because, well, one, it's actually American. It exists in actual voting precincts. It shows up in rallies, primaries, and general elections when Trump is on the ballot. But meanwhile, the anti-Israel groyper wing is discovering that half of their brothers in arms live in a city where the McDonald's menu has shrimp burgers. So, so what this weekend exposed is not just a foreign troll problem. It exposed how many people in American politics, especially the online fringe, don't have any philosophy at all unless that philosophy could be described as anti-Western. It exposed these people that they just follow the loudest voice, the most emotionally satisfying narrative, the most divisive rhetoric. And the people who do have philosophy, we, the libertarians, the constitutionalists, the classical liberals, the conservatives, the true conservatives, the national conservatives who have coherent platforms, like these people are very much real and very American, and their ideas survive scrutiny. Accounts whose IP addresses ping somewhere near Minsk, sorry, you done. Bye-bye. You done. Booty Sweat says, shrimp burgers sound nice, honestly. I would go for it, but Stephanie and I talk all the time about how Japan is talking about bringing Japanese-style 7-Elevens to the United States. And while that makes us very excited and happy, we don't think people in Jefferson City would go for it, honestly. We like it. I don't know if like small towns like, because we're like, gosh, we love all these like culture. We should import some of this cultural, this food and things like that from, into the United States. And then I was like, Stephanie, what do you see? Look all the way down. What do you see? Down Missouri Boulevard in Jefferson City. What do you see but cheeseburgers and ice cream? That's what Americans want. They want cheeseburgers. In New York City, maybe. Austin, Texas, definitely. So when she saw me making up my own sauces, I used AI yesterday to make chicken wings, such an American thing to do. And I took a picture. This is awesome. I took a picture of my spice cabinet, all the spices. I turned them all to the front, took a picture of them. And I said, with all the spices that you see here, AI, give me some recipes for some quick, simple sauces that I can toss my wings in and have a delicious chicken wings dinner. So I fried up my wings and I started whisking up some sauces. The number one winner, by the way, was surprisingly not the teriyaki sauce that I whipped up, but I made this Parmesan everything bagel toasted chicken wing. It was melt the butter, Parmesan cheese, and everything bagel seasoning, and you put that on the wings, and it was stinking delicious and very American. Amy says, now let's go get some curry. Yeah, no, I'm down. But you think about it. Even Colombia, how much curry is there around town? People be wanting their Five Guys cheeseburgers. Cheeseburgers, boobs, and beer, says Dad Bod Baboon. Exactly. That's what they want, Amy. You got to give people what they want. So if you see me setting up a roadside stand in Jefferson City, I'm not going to be selling my famous Peruvian chicken. I'm probably going to be selling my famous chicken wings with everything bagel toasted Parmesan because I want to make money. So the question now, guys, is what happens to our discourse when we remove these fake amplifiers, right? Do people become less radical? Do the conspiracies die down is the question. Do the grifters who fed off of this ecosystem, do they lose their influence? And do real Americans rise back to the top of the conversation? So the answer depends on whether the right, especially Trump's movement, decides to lean into authenticity or more algorithmic hysteria. Because when you clean out these foreign sock puppets, you're left with something much more valuable. The actual American people who actually live here, who actually have a stake in these communities. Think about what would happen if they actually had a button where not only can you know who is a foreigner, but you could actually turn those accounts off, mute them. I would love to turn off all of China, all of India, all of Nigeria, all of Pakistan, all of Vietnam. I want it all out. Or I'll create a second account and I'll get some international news. I'm not suggesting that we should never hear what happens around the world. What I am suggesting is that we have a place as Americans, our little safe space, if you will. All 50, from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies. It really is a clarifying moment. It strips away the noise and it shows the signal. I'm always in my life trying to find more signal and less noise. When I hear noise, I want to tune it out. And I want to hear the signal. I want to hear what's actually coming through. It's News Radio, 950 on AM and 104.5 on FM. I want to hear real voters. I want to hear real Americans. And I want to hear a lot fewer trolls. Now, the conversation, of course, has to talk about the 2026 election, because the battle ahead is not just left and right. It's not just MAGA versus the establishment or the deep state. This is reality versus the LARP economy. And I believe the reality-based movement will win in the long run. Do you agree? So we're going to talk to John Miltimore at 8 a.m. Central. We got about 15 minutes left on the Wake Up America show, and we'll hear from John about the Zoran Mamdani Donald Trump meeting. And then we'll hear at 8:30 this morning from Adam Coleman to go back to this topic about the outside MAGA influencers. If you just tuned into the Wake Up America show, please click the like button. We'd love to have you be a regular guest of the show. This show streams live Mondays through Fridays from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. We have bonus content that you can unlock on this show. The holidays shipping schedule, guys, it's closing sooner than you think. I know a lot of people, they love to do the Black Friday sales. Our Black Friday sales have already begun. If you buy two of anything at forlibertyshop.com, you're going to save 15% if you use our coupon, buy two, save 15. And if you want to unlock the bonus content, it's only unlockable during the live show. We have to raise $100 for the first level. Second level is $150. Third level is $200. And we have unlocks at every phase of the way. My recommendation, guys, is that you get this Christmas shopping knocked out and save some dollarinos by going to forlibertyshop.com. If you put more than one box of coffee into your cart this morning, the discounts will be automatic and they will add up the more boxes of coffee you place, up to 4 or more boxes of coffee. forlibertyshop.com is the website that has helped to fuel this podcast. Without this shop, there's no way that we would have been able to maintain this business as long as we have. It's such an important part of our strategy for liberty, and we are really having some huge wins with it. Consider the Javier Milei Afuera sneakers. Think about what we're doing around the world, changing the world. If you know the story about the Javier Milei sneakers, think about how much this little small mom and pop shop, literally mom and pop, me and Stephanie and Brad and Colton, have built this shop and turned it into an international sensation. And done so because of the basis of the foundation of the Wake Up America show. People like Amy J. Easley, people like Drew Van Runkle, hugely Drew Van Runkle and Amy Easley, and so many others who are supporting the Wake Up America show with purchases at the shop. And then look at all the incredible reviews. So Stephanie and I, not only do we talk a big game on our talk shows, but we also see our customers through with total satisfaction. Look at Amy J. Easley's smiling, beautiful face. Notice this high quality join or die embroidered sweatshirt. Where else are you going to find that? We don't even know TB personally, and she's over here giving us 5-star reviews this morning. This just came in. Nice. Faith, Family, and Freedom. 5 stars, 5 stars. Andy Opperman loves my AI for Creators class. They love our stickers. They love our tea. They love our hats. They love our shirts. They love our earrings. So why don't you just go to forlibertyshop.com, help to unlock the bonus content. If you put 2 or more of anything into your cart, if it's 2 of coffee, it's an automatic discount. But let's say you want the new less government, more video games, patriotic gamer pullover. If you wanted that, especially our Freedom Arcade fans, if you wanted that and you threw that and maybe the less government, more cookies glass, you would save 15% on both by typing in the code buy 2 save 15. And if you have a lovely Lady of Liberty in your life, don't sleep on these beautiful engraved jewels, necklaces, bracelets that Stephanie designed over the weekend. 1776 and a heart, comes in silver or gold color. And the bar necklace, We the People, engraved cutout heart. What a gorgeous necklace. Comes in pretty blue, as well as gold, as well as rose gold, as well as black, as well as silver color for $29.99. And then think about it. Do that and maybe a t-shirt as well. And then use that code buy 2 save 15 and you will save a bunch of money on your car insurance by switching to Geico. Just kidding. So head on over to the Grift Shop this morning, guys. Get that bonus content unlocked. And we're going to take a brief break here in about 5 minutes before we have John Miltimore on the Wake Up America show. And now I'm going to take a quick little 30-second break so I can get some water. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on that For Liberty Network. Go shopping.
Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have drag queen story hour for toddlers. Pronouns are mandatory. And Harvard can't define woman. Oh. And we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. You know, just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense, but you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop forlibertyshop.com. Legend has it, back in 1773, a band of angry, overtaxed patriots stormed a British ship, found the king's favorite tea, and said, "This would taste better without the tyranny." Then they tossed it overboard. Fast forward to today. That revolutionary spirit lives on in Boston Harbor Black, the boldest brew in the For Liberty tea lineup. It's dark, it's smooth, it's unapologetically American, just like the folks who drink it. Whether you're sweetening it up on the front porch or drinking it straight like a Minuteman before battle, this isn't tea for royalty. It's tea for rebels. No fake flavors, no corporate slogans, just a cold glass of Don't Tread on Me in liquid form. So skip the woke iced tea aisle and stock up on Boston Harbor Black at forlibertyshop.com. Because when the heat's rising, the least you can do is drink like a patriot. When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a redcoat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors, and trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at forlibertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at forlibertyshop.com.
Harder than almost any other elected Republican to elect Donald Trump and Republicans to power. I traveled the country for years. I spent millions of my own money. I missed precious time with my family that I can never get back. And I showed up in places like outside the New York courthouse in Collect Pond Park against a raging leftist mob as Trump faced Democrat lawfare. Standing up for American women who were raped at 14 years old, trafficked and used by rich, powerful men should not result in me being called a traitor.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show, and we are on the 4 Liberty Network. The Marjorie Taylor Greene era did not end with a bang. It ended with a rant. MTG is resigning in January, and she's trying to turn it into a populist martyr story, but the truth is sharper than the script she's reading there. This wasn't a betrayal by Trump or some shadowy donor cabal. This was the end of a political brand built on algorithmic chaos instead of actual philosophy. In her resignation video, she complained that she's being replaced by neocons, big pharma, big tech, the military-industrial complex, foreign leaders, the elite donor class, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the trilateral, the bilateral, the CFR, and Bohemian Grove all at once. Oh, Austin, you stinker. Oh, yeah. So, of course, the whole conspiratorial wing of MAGA is gone in one breath. It's grievance without grounding, populism without principle. But here's the important distinction. The libertarian flank, Rand Paul, Thomas Massie, they actually have a worldview. They actually have and are grounded in a belief system. They've built their careers not on space lasers, but on constitutional limits, Austrian economics, non-interventionist traditions of American liberty. They can disagree with Trump, but it's anchored in something. MTG was never anchored. Her original identity that she built was built on QAnon posts, Jewish space lasers, and false flag school shooting claims. She apologized for some of this, sure, but only after it actually threatened her brand. She even recently admitted she was essentially patient zero for toxic politics. On that, we agree. And if you want to talk about America first, explain this. She spent years shouting about runaway spending, but then she votes for the giant omnibus packages in 2023 and 2024. If Trump or leadership wanted them, she was for them. So yes on Ukraine funding, yes on IRS expansion, yes on debt ceiling increases she swore she would always oppose. That is not principle. That's performance. And her foreign policy rhetoric was even more confused. One day she's attacking neocons and calling for bringing troops home. The next day, she wants strikes on Mexican cartels and American firepower on every border except Israel's. Then she went from a strongly pro-Israel to suddenly anti-Israel the minute it became clear that Buckley Republicans weren't her ticket and the groyper ecosystem, the one that we now find out is partially foreign, was applauding anybody who bashed Israel. And that's where the A1 segment ties into the A2. So many of the accounts that encouraged Marjorie Taylor Greene's anti-Israel pivot, that told her that Trump betrayed us, MAGA is dead, the people that praised her attacks on House leadership, many of those accounts are now exposed as foreigners, not Americans, not MAGA, not voters, bots and troll farms pinging in from Niger, Russia, Eastern Europe. It turns out that much of the movement that she thought she was surfing was AstroTurf. And meanwhile, Trump, with the actual measurable domestic base, he cuts her loose. He saw that she was drifting into Carlson world, into the angry for anger's sake zone. And as a new election cycle opens and Trump becomes a lame duck, he cannot afford a rival faction built on conspiracies instead of coalitions. So what happens now? The Wall Street Journal's warning is dead on. The isolationist, anti-business, anti-Israel wing who cannot govern the country, they can only veto, they can only burn things down, and then they become impossible to whip up once you empower them. Ask Trump how it feels to be called a traitor by people who worshipped him 3 years ago. But here's the good news for conservatives and libertarians. This moment allows, this is the opportunity. Here's the silver lining in this cloud. Even if you like Marjorie Taylor Greene, even if you love everything that she stood for, and you like Thomas Massie and Rand Paul too, here's the thing. This is an opportunity for them to reassert themselves as serious thinkers instead of being lumped in with the conspiratard wing that MTG represented. They can defend limited government, oppose nation building, scrutinize spending, all without being associated with Telegram cult logic. See, MTG leaving is not the fall of a movement. It's the pruning of a branch. It grew too fast, too wild, and too untethered from anything resembling philosophy. So here's my final take. Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't get pushed out because she was too radical. She got pushed out because she was incoherent, because she mistook engagement for governance, because she mistook foreign troll applause for American support, because she lost Trump, and because even the loudest populism eventually collapses if it has no moral or intellectual spine behind it. The ideas that matter, liberty, decentralization, rule of law, peace through strength, they will survive Marjorie Taylor Greene's resignation, and the Republic will too. We'll be right back. John Milton will be here in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Don't go away. Brief little commercial break. Go buy some Founding Flavors coffee this morning so you'll be bright, chipper, pepper. Peppy? Peppy pepper. Peppy pickle pepper. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Rubber baby buggy bumpers.
Look, not all t-shirts are created equal. Some just sit there. Others start conversations. The ones at 4libertyshop.com, they raise eyebrows, win arguments, and occasionally get you banned from PTA meetings. Whether you're repping freedom, mocking tyrants, or just making the left squirm, we've got the gear that says what you're thinking. Loud, proud, unapologetic. Grab yours today at 4libertyshop.com because your shirt should speak louder than your neighbor's bumper sticker. When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a red coat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors, and trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at 4libertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at 4libertyshop.com.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned...
To Stephen Nelson, he asked about your comment calling the president a fascist, and your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes. Okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
I wanted to ask you to Stephen Nelson.
You can love Trump, you can hate Trump, you can disagree with Trump gently. You can have a lot of nuance in your position about Donald Trump. You can be a never Trumper and join the Democratic Party, but you cannot lie to anybody and say that Donald Trump is not funny. He is funny. He's making me laugh. Zorn Mamdani, Donald Trump, sat down for a meeting of the minds. Joining us now to discuss is a great mind. Every Monday, Great Minds with Miltimore. Maybe we'll rebrand the segment. Mondays from Miltimore or Minds with Miltimore. Joining us now, the man with the biggest brains until Wednesday when Judge Napolitano comes in. Hey, how you doing, John?
Hey, I'm not doing bad. And yeah, Judge has me blown away.
We're glad to have you here, buddy. So Zoran Mamdani and Donald Trump get together. Can I tell you, I predicted that this was going to go down this way. I know you don't watch every single second of the show, and for that, we must boo. But for those who might not have seen or heard, I knew that this was going to become a love fest for the reasons that you're probably going to agree with me on. They agree on maybe more than they disagree, and probably that's bad for America.
You know, it is, but I did like the way Trump handled the question. He kind of laughed it off and says, like, what are you going to say in that? But yeah, there is a lot more in common, and I thought about it. And it's not like you can go through, you could try going through their policies and finding low overlap. To me, the biggest thing that stands out is both of them. They hate the idea of limited government. I won't even say they hate it. They don't believe in it. And it comes, you see it over and over. There's some things about, Trump we've liked that he's done, but pretty much nothing has come from like the idea of this notion that the federal government should be limited in any way. Everything Trump does, he promotes an activist government. And this is exactly what, Mamdani wants to do. He wants to put government, he said there's no problem too small for government, right? And that's really the socialist template. And I think, Trump wouldn't maybe say that, but he governs that way. He has a mindset that we need government in our lives and fixing things.
If we want to be accurate, though, we can't say everything Trump has done has been about increasing state power, because you said that he had done some libertarian things. But
I think on the bureaucracy front, he has been aggressive, right? Like rolling back these bureaucasies that are dysfunctional.
So why would he do that? So why would he do that if he didn't believe in it?
I think he's doing it because, again, they're hostile to him. Let's not forget he was president once before. The bureaucracies, I will say it, like this word deep state. It was one, I remember hearing about this in the early, 2000s and 2010s, and it kind of sounded like quackery to me.
Like the Trilateral Commission and the CFR and the deep state and Bohemian Grove stuff.
Yeah, there was sort of this out of control bureaucracy that would work to sabotage, presidencies, or that was actually, they were the real people in charge. I don't think it's quackery anymore. I think there is very much a deep state at work. It's fighting to survive. There's different components of it. You have the Comey, Brennan, Clapper part of the deep state. And then you just have agencies that just want to exist and to see their budgets increase. It's something. If you tried to do a dissertation on it for your PhD, you wouldn't even be able. It'd be a massive undertaking because it's big, it's complicated. And again, I think Trump took that on because it's hostile to him. I don't think it was out of and advantageous to him politically. I think that's kind of what makes Trump go. And sometimes that he does things that we're going to like because of that. But I don't think it's out of some principle that he feels the federal government shouldn't be involved in those things.
Well, this is not just a capitalistic plug, but this is one of the reasons why Stephanie and I wrote this children's book, Grover, the Nope President. Because one of his legacies was civil service reform. And there probably were people in Grover Cleveland's time, John, who were criticizing Grover, saying the same thing about his desire to overturn the old institutions which had actually helped bring him to power. Civil service reform was an important part of his legacy. Vetoing was a big part of his legacy. Chester A. Arthur actually engaged in a massive civil service reform, and he was a creature, I think, of the New York machines at the time. So civil service reform is something that presidents have engaged in for ideological reasons. They've done so also out of reasons of morality. For example, I believe Chester A. Arthur, when he turned against his old, I think it was Tammany Hall. When he went against Tammany Hall, it was the people who had all brought him to power, and he was doing so because someone had written him a letter saying "be good, do good," and he decided to do so. The problem with the arguments about why President Trump is doing this is that it all just is a supposition of his motives or his intentions. And to some extent, we don't really have the luxury of caring about that, John, to some extent. It's not that, if you live in an ivory tower and you write white papers for a living and you collect checks from donors on a nonprofit, then, your incentives you can opine. It's like being in academia. You get to criticize everybody from outside the house, but you're not really in the game. Trump's act of self-defense against these institutions, ultimately, at the end of the day, doesn't matter if it's a matter of his own survival to some extent. If he takes them out and does it, I can't. Most people can't whine about the reasons why Trump, doesn't. We don't have to have the Chevron deference has been overturned thanks to President Trump, and now the lobster farmers of Maine don't have to pay some EPA official their federal salary to be on their boats. But without Donald Trump, there is no overturning of the Chevron deference. So
and you won't hear me complaining like, oh, Trump's only taking on the bureaucracies because it helps him. I don't complain about that. I'm trying to explain maybe why he does it. And your history lesson's a good one. And James Garfield, let's not forget, he was assassinated over that issue. It was civil service reform. There was a disgruntled would-be civil servant who was mad he wasn't going to get hired, and put a bullet in the Garfield over it. So that you're right. This goes way back. This is a little different than civil service reform. I don't think there was an organized hostile deep state at work. It was more a spoils system, right? And people looked at it and could see how corrupt it was. And we absolutely need reform on that front. The way Trump's doing it, I'm not going to complain about it. Like he's going hammer and tong. It's a fight. I'm glad he's fighting. Can he win it? I don't know. But he's made good progress. And like we might see things like the Department of Education simply gone. And we've had, I think Linda McMahon said you can just send money directly to states. You don't need a department to do this.
Here's the thing. That wouldn't have happened under Kamala Harris. I see a lot of people posting about MAGA is dead. I see a lot of libertarian accounts who are pissed off about Trump attacking Marjorie Taylor Greene and attacking Thomas Massie and attacking Rand Paul in these few days. And I'm like, you know what? I can hold two things can be true at once. I can support Thomas Massie and Senator Rand Paul for their libertarian clarity and their constitutional fidelity. And I can also celebrate the bull in the china shop that is destroying our enemies on the left and also rejecting groyperism to a large extent. And I'd like to ask you about what you think about the reveal over the weekend. I know you're not terminally online as much as I am, John, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in just a few minutes about the revelations that so many of these American nationalists ended up being fake patriots from overseas. I imagine you suspected that. But I want to stick to the big question here, which is the Zoran Mamdani, Donald Trump meeting. The thing you said, you could look at certain policies, say that perhaps there's a little bit of overlap. Mamdani obviously believes in a total state, and you're intellectually honest enough to say that Donald Trump's motives, may be unclear. You can ascribe something to them. I can ascribe something to them, but some of the results are overwhelmingly positive. Some of the things are not. But can we give him credit for pivoting on the tariffs when he realized that the economy was not doing so good? Because the question really is this affordability question. And I'm hoping everybody that looks like we might unlock the bonus content. Somebody just went shopping at the shop and I think we've almost hit that $100 level, because the fact of the matter is that without Trump in the White House doing what he's done in the last 8 years, or I guess 10 years now, because we had the 4 years of Biden, I try and forget, we would definitely be worse off as a country, in my opinion. Do you disagree? Do you think that Trump overall has been a net positive for the country or a net negative?
I'm glad Donald Trump won the election. But that doesn't mean I see him as a net positive. I do see a trend of decline continuing. Now, I think the left needed to lose. I think those 4 years were insane years. I think Americans that were never political before got political to reject where we were heading there. If you look ahead to where Europe is now, some of the things going on in the UK and France, that is where we will go if we continue down that path. Trump, I think has put the brakes on that to some extent, but it has come at great cost. And it's the little stuff. This is why I get frustrated. I feel like he shot his own legacy in the foot by this tariff agenda that created this, I say, affordability crisis. I don't think it's a crisis, but what was happening, if you look, we had steady decline in inflation. And in April, it started to go up again and again and again. And it's going up. We see it over 3% now. That didn't need to happen. And if you look, it's supposed to bring manufacturing jobs back. It was going to be this renaissance. We've lost about 50,000 manufacturing jobs since April. The sector that creates goods, like they've lost about 100,000.
Yeah, because those inputs come from overseas.
Exactly.
But here's what I'm trying to sort of weasel my way into discussing with you, John. It's that in this scenario where the chips are down, where you say things are going in a net negative direction, you have Marjorie Taylor Greene who's exited stage left, that we don't need to get sucked into her sort of black hole of chaos as she exits the political arena, because she's being tarred with the same brush. Or Massie and Paul are being tarred with the same brush as Marjorie Taylor Greene, and they are not the same. And so my concern is that without an electoral strategy that puts Thomas Massie and Rand Paul in the president's good graces, and I see right-wing Mick over on X this morning, he's relating to our conversation. He says, Trump is, quote, friends with anyone who will kiss his ass at the moment and making enemies of those who give him pushback. So isn't there a way to Kobayashi Maru this, John Miltimore, to use a Star Trek reference? Isn't there a way for us to go back to the times when Massie was being endorsed by Donald Trump in hopes of passing a greater libertarian agenda? Or is the strategy hunker down, make war with Trump for the next 3 years, stoke more chaos and division, and get absolutely nothing accomplished and just write off the next 3 years? What do you say?
I hope so. Like, I really do. I don't know if that can happen. I think there's some, you have a child. I have one. My 9-year-old can be very stubborn. And we have these talks. I'm like, you need to control your outbursts, right? You need to control that. And this is what I'm going, like, teach and trying to. I don't think the president of the United States ever learned that lesson. I think he does what he wants. He's driven by his own impulses. We see him tweeting at 3 a.m, and he's outraged by something. What that tells me is that even if he wants to do that pivot you're talking about, he's going to have a hard time because he's such an impulsive character. That partly that's made him his part of his strength. People are afraid of him.
I was going to say that's a strength. Yeah, that is a strength. I saw yesterday Justin Amash. Everywhere I see John, I see libertarians who don't know how to fight. I saw Justin Amash talking about, he was criticizing J.D. Vance, and I love Justin Amash, but he was criticizing J.D. Vance, saying that J.D. Vance was pretending like he was stupid in order to cater to people. And it was funny because I was just opening up to my chapter in my book about the laws of power, about how you play a sucker to catch a sucker, meaning that you act stupid so that you catch somebody stupid, right? And it's act a sucker to play a sucker. And then I thought to myself, I'm like, brilliant. And you know what? I actually struggle with that, John, because I never want people to think that I'm stupid. I am so prideful and I am so arrogant that I only want people to think that I am the smartest person in the world. I only want people to think that I'm a bright, literate, thoughtful person. And you know what that gets me? That gets me 104 viewers on Rumble, who I love and appreciate, but I could get 104,000 viewers if I played stupid. Isn't that, it may be sad, but it's true.
No, I agree with that. It's sort of like, I saw this the last few days. Have you been seeing the viral content over the Ken Burns documentary?
No, I have not, but I can't wait to watch the documentary. I don't have PBS. Go ahead.
So it's going, there was one comment. I know the guy a little bit, and his comment was, the first 3 minutes of the Ken Burns documentary, and he says, woke, 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 and he gives you 3 examples, and it went bonkers. And, so he's getting trolled hard by the left, who says, triggered by, Native Americans in a documentary. You have the right that he's getting like accounts that are saying spot on. I watched the clip and it's like a Rorschach blot. You look at it, is this woke or not? And I think you could watch that I'd watch that and I wouldn't read that much into it. But the right is kind of, fired up. Everything is woke. And the left looks at this like, how can this possibly? I think Ken Burns is a bit woke. I interviewed Ken Burns years ago. Very nice man. Great, documentary filmmaker. But this clip, like he's kind of, there's some things in there that just, they're not entirely truthful, but it's not like this, overtly woke thing either. But the internet just went crazy with it. And I'm like, that's the key to get engagement in a way, is sort of like creating a tempest out of a teapot that gets everyone outraged. And it's, it's kind of where social media is at. I don't, I do a lot more reading on social media than posting. But I think the trick to getting all that content is to kind of dumb it down a little bit, is to make it, to simplify complex things.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, John. This is why I think a lot of people maybe don't appreciate my contributions in the liberty movement as much, because we tend to lionize the economists and we despise our salesmen, but we do need more good salesmen for our ideas. Right now, we do struggle. Nobody likes the sales department. I used to work at a tech firm, John, and the tech guys, they hated us sales guys. The engineers, they just sneer us, they spit all over us. There was this guy, Yuri, and he was like sales people. Oh yeah, we're like, yeah, we're the people who pay for your salary, dude. We're the people who make it so that you guys can eat, so that people buy your.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
they matter. And you're right. I do think there's a lot of intellectual firepower in libertarian circles, like in a crazy amount. But there is a marketing problem too. We need the average person to understand these ideas. And I'll be honest, I feel like the free market movement has kind of failed to some degree. And that's not because they haven't had good leaders. It's not because they haven't had talented people. But the country, if you look classical liberals, whatever you want to do, free market, we're in the wilderness now. The right used to be kind of a place where we had a home. It feels like that's gone. The left, there was this hope that you'd have this abundance movement maybe kick, in the center left. They've completely rejected that. And so what I see here are the two major political parties that are rejecting, free markets and, classical liberalism. And we need to fix that. How we fix it, I don't know.
Well, there's a reason why this Wake Up America show, the For Liberty Network, Stonegate Pictures, my businesses, my properties are all for-profit enterprises, John, not nonprofits. I know enough rich guys. I've ran into enough, rich donor type men and women that if I wanted to send out the donor email, set up the nonprofit, give them the tax break, be a 501c3 and collect the check and live like a communist, then yeah, I would probably. You understand that, there's an immunity. It's like being a tenured professor in some ways. Right, you still have to sing for your supper, and that you still have to convince some billionaire, millionaire, some sugar daddy to write your checks, and they do write big checks. But at the end of the day, if our ideas can't survive in a free marketplace in capitalism, if people don't want to wear capitalism as cool T-shirts, John, or wear Reagan Bush T-shirts, or wear don't tread on me Gadsden flag hats, then we're not winning the culture wars. We're not winning any political wars. So like our iconography at the moment, the stock is down, right? But we need to get the stock back up. Think like capitalists and capitalism will win. That's just my 2 cents on it. Your take.
No, it is. Here's the irony though. The best way to get that stock back up is when the left is in control. And then they start to pass some of these policies, and suddenly then engagement's up and stock is up, not the stock market necessarily. But yeah, and that's the unfortunate part. Now's the time. I've been through this with too many administrations on the right, that you get the president in power and then you get Congress and nothing happens. Yeah. And I feel this is why I'm not trying to beat up on Trump for, needlessly. I want him to do well. And to go back to your earlier question, how do we fix this? It starts by him just pulling back from this trade war. It was nice he rescinded some of those tariffs on beef, on coffee, on fruit. That's going to help a little bit on the price front. But he, trying to use tariffs as a weapon against other countries in this way, it's causing a lot of harm. And I do think he's going to get a huge favor from the Supreme Court here in about 2 weeks. They're going to say, no, it's not a national emergency because we have a trade deficit with Vietnam. That's not what we're talking about here.
I do too. So, our friend Kermode Bear says, I also hate salespeople because they keep selling things to clients that don't exist. So I have to bust my ass to cover. Funny. John, where can people read your work and find you online?
You know, our content is at the dailyeconomy.org. We got fresh stuff every day. And my work you can find at The Take on Substack, The Take by John Miltimore.
The Take by John Miltimore. Great takes, John. Always love our conversations.
Hey, same. Have a good week, AP. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too. Happy Thanksgiving. We're going to have a great week. I'm looking forward to Black Friday. What are you guys going to be doing? Are you going to go shopping at forlibertyshop.com? Well, you better get your orders in, guys. We're $1 away from unlocking the first phase of the bonus content. Let's do it. Can we do it like this? I know this sounds crazy, but can we get somebody to tip me $1 in Bitcoin? Can we get our very first cryptocurrency donation on the Wake Up America show? If anybody dabbles in crypto, if anybody has Bitcoin, for $1, we can unlock the bonus content. We've raised $99 so far. All you have to do is pull out your phone, take a picture of that. If you have an Android phone, then Rumble Wallet, it might be available to you. They're just rolling it out. It's a new phase thing. But you can send Bitcoin to the Rumble Wallet. And I'd love it if we could try and accomplish $1 in Bitcoin this morning, if possible. Or $5 or $10. Somebody tried to donate $200,000 to me in Bitcoin when I ran for office, but of course the maximum donation that you could give is $4,800, and so I had to return it all, and it was because of the campaign finance limits.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Yeah, well, there's a campaign finance reform bill in Congress. I'm sure that your congressman will get right on reforming that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the show today. Drop your comments over in the Rumble chat. It's nice to see over 113 people watching us live this morning. Hi, guys. Drew Van Runkle says, I wish there was a way to do it without the Rumble wallet. Damn it. Quest, I think there is a way to receive Bitcoin to my Rumble wallet. Have you clicked try and click the tip button that's underneath the video there. Give it a shot. It should have a little button, a green button that says tip if you click it right there. But it says you can tip with another crypto wallet as well, and you can do so in Bitcoin. So if you click that button, tick through. Yes, scan to send tips in Bitcoin via the Bitcoin network. Okay. The Bitcoin address, I'll drop it in the live chat. It gave you the copy, the paste. I can do it right there. Boom. There it is. So I don't have a Lightning address. I have a Bitcoin address. And there is the code that I've just dropped into the chat. So I'd love to see if we can hit that bonus content level, guys. We've got 5 minutes until we have Adam Coleman this morning to talk about the groyper wars potentially coming to an end now that the X feature, which shows the country of origin for some of these accounts, where do these people reside. If you'd like to support the Wake Up America show for free, click the like button and follow the channel. Brad says we just raised the bonus content. That's great. So I'll queue up the mini documentary for you guys. Somebody go and give it a try. See if that tip jar works. I'd love to test the new Rumble wallet. Give it a shot. I gave you the Bitcoin address as well in the chat. We'll be right back with Adam Coleman on the Wake Up America show and the For Liberty Network.
About the affordability crisis. It can't be solved. Trump and Mamdani both campaigned on affordability, but the issue is amorphous and poorly defined. President Trump has been looking for someone to blame for all the affordability crisis chatter that is dragging on his presidency. On Friday, he came face-to-face with him in the Oval Office. While the affordability crisis might not be a Democratic con job, as Trump once claimed, it certainly dominates the vibes. And no one embodies the vibes better than Zohran Mamdani, who was elected mayor of New York City this month. Mamdani, like the Democratic candidates for governor in New Jersey and Virginia, campaigned single-mindedly on affordability. He was still at it Friday. Asked, with Trump at his side, about the Middle East or whether Trump is a fascist, Mamdani kept returning to the affordability agenda and the cost of living crisis. But getting elected on vibes is one thing. Solving them is another, and that's the problem with the affordability crisis. What started as a serious but short-lived spike in inflation from 2021 to 2023 has evolved into something broader and more amorphous. Like the climate crisis or the crisis of democratic legitimacy, The affordability crisis has become an umbrella term for countless loosely connected phenomena. Like those other crises, this one defies definition, and thus resolution. Affordability isn't a synonym for inflation, which is the rate of change in the overall price level. Inflation reached 9% in mid-2022, but was down to 3% in September. Though it is above the Federal Reserve's preferred 2%, that 1 percentage point difference is probably not the crisis people have in mind. Strictly speaking, affordability means having the resources to pay for goods and services at current prices. By that standard, the simplest metric is real, i.e., after inflation incomes. Real incomes fell behind when inflation shot up, then recovered as inflation receded and wages caught up. Real personal income was up 2.3% in the year through August, and real hourly wages climbed 0.8% in the year through September, both in line with the 19-year average. Clearly, the affordability crisis can't be captured by such macroeconomic measures. It is an amalgam of microeconomic irritants that vary by individual time and place. Because there is always something going up in price or someone whose incomes are suffering, affordability is an especially potent issue for political challengers such as Trump and Mamdani, who have a gift for zeroing in on whatever is most salient to voters. Trump relentlessly bashed President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, the Democratic nominee last year, over the price of groceries and gasoline. That some of it wasn't true. Bacon is up 5 times. Didn't matter. The attacks resonated. When Trump returned to office, the public was obsessed with eggs, whose price had doubled in the prior year, as flocks were culled to contain avian flu. The price has since fallen sharply, as Trump and his surrogates regularly point out. But the public's attention has moved elsewhere, most notably to beef and coffee. As a campaigner, Trump loved to talk about gasoline because its price had risen under Biden, though it fell from its peaks after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. And more production of fossil fuels was one of his central policies. Since January, gas prices have indeed dropped. But the newly salient issue is rising electricity rates. There's nothing any elected official can do to solve the affordability crisis reliably. As Biden learned, people don't want lower inflation, i.e., prices to rise more slowly. They want prices to fall. Trump promised they would. Overall prices haven't fallen and almost certainly won't. For prices merely to stop rising for a year, i.e., an inflation rate of 0, would probably require a deep recession. Overall prices haven't fallen materially since the Great Depression. Individual actions such as reduced regulation on energy production and infrastructure and capping certain drug prices will help at the margin, but tariffs do the opposite, as Trump seems to have acknowledged by rolling some back. New York City rent levels have been a long-time concern. Housing is especially hard to solve. It has become much more expensive since the pandemic. From 2008 through 2021, mortgage rates were abnormally low, a product of very low inflation and aggressive Federal Reserve policies, which boosted home prices. Mortgage rates have since returned to pre-2008 norms, but housing prices haven't yet adjusted downward, so monthly payments remain high, especially for first-time buyers. That is slowly changing. New home prices have slipped for the past few years, existing home prices have stopped rising, and mortgage rates are down 0.5 percentage point in the past year. Housing affordability is now slightly below its pre-2008 average, according to the National Association of Realtors, so room for improvement is limited. Trump wants to stack the Fed with loyalists who will slash interest rates, but that wouldn't return mortgage costs to pre-pandemic lows absent a much worse economy. And a politicized Fed would ultimately lead to higher inflation and rates. Mamdani, like Trump, frames affordability in memorable terms. We're in the wealthiest city in the history of the world, and yet 1 in 5 can't afford $2.90 for a Metro card, he declared Friday, a convenient way to justify his proposal for free buses.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Glad to have you here. Hanging out with Rare Camellia, Why a Wild Man, Drew Van Runkle, Decision Points, Saint Selma, Grizz Cheese, C. Songroth, and so many other American patriots here in the chat. If you're not American, if you watch the Wake Up America show, then we'll just say you're an honorary American. How does that? As long as you weren't pretending to be someone else. This weekend, it was uncovered that thousands of right-wing nationalist accounts and others were not truly American patriots, but were in fact part of the LARP economy, faking it. Some of it for cash, some of it for ideological reasons, some of it might actually be criminal behavior. Joining us now to discuss this is Adam Coleman, who posted it in what I think was the line of the weekend. Niger, please. Good morning to Adam Coleman. Welcome to the Wake Up America show, Niger.
I think it's technically Niger.
Niger, okay.
Niger,
it's like Target. Target, no, it's Target. So, Adam, what is this story? And it's important enough for us to discuss on this show. What's your big picture take of it?
Yeah, I mean, for the people who don't spend their life on X, formerly known as Twitter, basically it was asked of, can we see where these accounts are from? Right? Obviously, we're not trying to dox people like their home address or anything like that. We just want to see what country they're coming from. And lo and behold, they actually made it happen. I think it took a few weeks, but they were able to show us location information about everyone's account. And so now there's transparency as far as if this guy is saying, 1776 American, and you look up and he's from Pakistan, like, hey, something's not right here. What's going on? But I think what this really told us was that the bigger picture is that politics in America was ripe for astroturfing. It was ripe for this entire situation to happen because everyone has become so obviously partisan that even people who've never stepped foot in our country can see that, know what to mimic, and knows that it works. And that to me, you can't take advantage of something. Well, I'm speaking in general. Someone will be like, yeah, you can. But generally speaking, you can't take advantage of something that is not vulnerable for being taken advantage to, right? And if we weren't so highly emotional, highly partisan, then we wouldn't be fooled by the reply here if you agree, Trump is amazing guy. Like that wouldn't be a thing. We would look more for substance.
Well, we see.
We would ask her.
This is of course this is occurring on all social networks. What's funny though is that on Facebook, where that is sort of patient zero for a lot of these accounts who are pulling this, and there's no desire, there's no push even to make something like that happen from Facebook because, well, Facebook is for an older audience. It would probably collapse the ecosystem of Facebook if it was only legitimate people now. But what is the incentive? Because there's a cash incentive on one hand, there's ideological incentives on the other hand, and then there's just straight up foreign subversion, which would be official state actions on the third hand, much more malign and more malevolent. So talk to us about the motivations for this and why it has upended our ecosystem.
Well, I mean, this is all anecdotal, just from watching over the weekend. I think maybe half of it is driven by money. These are clearly engagement accounts. The fake disabled girl, the fan account of Donald Trump, the fan account of, Charlie Kirk or something like that, right? So these are very clearly just money driven. Reply here if you agree. I'm a real American kind of stuff. The other stuff is very much so ideologically driven, where they're trying to push something. I saw a lot of that when it came to, regardless of where you stand, I saw a lot of that in the divide between pro-Israel and pro-Palestine. But I will say it seems to be more on the pro-Palestine side where there's more grifting because they're saying, hey, I'm being bombed. I have no money. Give me money. Here's my GoFundMe, right? I'm related with that stuff in my DMs. So while that is money, there's also, and while you're giving me money, free Palestine.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of both in those. So I don't know. It's depending on the account, but at the end of the day, they are trying to subvert being an American. They're trying to interject themselves on American culture, and fomenting what we believe by pretending to be a part of our collective.
I've got a guy who was a reporter cited by the BBC as a journalist in Gaza City, told the BBC he had heard multiple Israeli airstrikes there on Thursday. Turns out the guy was in Poland. He had reported about how they were freezing in Gaza, where on that night it was actually quite warm, but it was probably very cold in Poland that night. But that's a little bit more malign. We're talking about institutions that people trust, like the BBC, falling for this stuff, Adam, and pushing it. And it could be for ideological reasons. If so, then it's malevolent. But in this case, people are reporting in legacy news outlets what's happening over on X. So this could go a long way for cleaning up the public discourse, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could. And actually, that kind of brings us back to why is there push for it on X and not on Facebook? Because we all know that there's a lot of scammers on Facebook. And the reason being is that no one really cares about the discourse on Facebook. Like the New York Post, New York Times, all these different outlets, the BBC is not looking for discourse on Facebook between, your parents and your grandma, right? What they're looking at is the discourse on X, because that's where anyone who is part of politics, part of media, celebrities, that is the platform that they actually use. So the reason where they're looking at it is because reporters from the BBC actually use X. It is the one platform where someone famous, someone who's someone who is part of this industry actually utilizes on a daily basis. So they're watching, and what happens on there, even though I think it's like less than 5% of Americans are on X, but whatever happens there shapes narrative for it to be reported on. And I've seen that. I've seen where like X stuff ends up in the New York Post.
How much, you're a black conservative. How much of this online racial antagonism that we see on X feels manufactured?
A good amount. So for example, there's this one account, I don't want to say the name of the account, but there's this one account that specifically was targeting, it was basically trying to attract black women, black American women, and going after black men by showing black man bad content over and over. And turns out that account is from South Asia. So, it's very particular accounts that were making money and were driving a wedge even more so into the racial politics that already exists. And I think over time, we're going to start seeing more and more of these characters. I just saw this one guy who was quite literally in the middle of the DeSantis versus Trump dialogue. Turns out he was from South Asia.
God damn, man.
So like, and this guy was holding spaces. I remember once or twice I had a conversation with him privately, but someone was always off, and I never went in that direction. But this guy was in the middle of it, had prominent people responding to him, was holding Twitter spaces and things of that nature, saying that he's an American, and lo and behold, South Asia. So, I mean, there are a lot of people who aren't necessarily trying to do this for money. They're trying to do it so they can be part of the conversation. Or some of them, I have questions about the ones who are in Saudi Arabia, and if they're state actors, or Russia and they're state actors. So who knows?
I'm speaking to Adam Coleman this morning. He writes for the New York Post. He's an author, documentarian, talking about the uncovering area of location of accounts over on X. And Adam is explaining to us about why it's important what happens on X and how it impacts how we talk and how we interact with one another. So many of these accounts that were exposed were aggressively anti-Israel and part of what we call the groyper ecosystem. How do you interpret the fact that a good chunk of that kind of that outrage, that movement's outrage, was coming from outside of the United States?
Well, being that their ringleader is a quote unquote asexual, cough gay, internet obsessed guy who is telling men that being straight is gay, he attracts unsuccessful young men. Many of them are all over the world. And so the longer you consume something, the more likely you're going to believe it. And so, yeah, you can have a Muslim kid in Pakistan believe that Hitler wasn't that bad because it fosters into already what you think of Jews, right? So there's an alignment there. There's weird alignments, but there's an alignment there. So it doesn't surprise me. I know that there are times where I would get stuff, call me the N-word and all types of stuff. And I would look, but they would make it clear that they're Europeans. And I'm like, why do you care what I have to say, Mr. European? But it does not shock me that these accounts are coming from all over the place. And one quick thing, it's the reason why this one is important is because all of these different publications want to splash Nick Fuentes' name as he's the leader of this movement in America. And come to find out, it's just one big grift. It's one big astroturf that's happening. And many of his followers, probably most of them, don't even live in this country. That's why it's important to go outside and actually talk to people. They want something to be here that is not here.
Yeah, I saw a groyper yesterday. It was so cute. He had a Charlie Kirk profile pic, and he was saying that he was criticizing one of these groypers who is outed. He was pretending to be an American. And he's like, I hate all the same people that you do, bro, but that's pretty weak that you pretend to be an American and you're over there. Why don't you solve your own country's problems, man? And I'm kind of like, at least that one is intellectually consistent in that sense. But it's a LARP. One of my favorite accounts, there's this Japanese woman who we had on the show last week, and I'm watching her just giving this one guy who pretended to be a Japanese nationalist the best tongue lashing I've ever seen. I was just like, damn, Yokohama Mama is taking it to the streets. Some British national or somebody. And if people aren't on X, these are the days when you were really rewarded for living on that platform, because this last weekend I was laughing my ass off all weekend. I don't know about you, Adam, but it was so supremely satisfying, because these people, they suck up resources that could be devoted to everyone else. Now the next feature we need is we should be able to turn off being able to have to hear from any of those people if we don't want to. Do you think that X should do that? And do you think they might?
Yeah, I don't think so. And I'm not necessarily trying to insinuate something, but I find it very interesting. You and I were talking about how this weekend was probably the most interesting weekend that has ever happened on X, at least as long as I've been on X. And yet not a peep from Elon. I find that very interesting. And I don't know what that means entirely. Yes, X turned this feature on, right? And tacitly he is part of that. But maybe it's also embarrassing to realize how bad the problem actually is. And maybe that's why he's not talking about, because he is ultimately responsible for this. We didn't have X payouts before Elon. So Elon created this environment. So, that's something that is running around in my head. I can't figure out. And I'm just curious if he's even going to talk about it, because it is the thing that is going on. I'm having a blast. I think the funniest one was that @American is actually owned by someone in South Asia.
Do you think that a lot of people, do you think though, that even American politicians, I could name a few. I wonder if you'll go there. I'll toss it over to you to see if you would say it. Do you think that some of these politicians who maybe they think that the support that they have is a little bit stronger than it actually is, based on the likes and the follows and the retweets that they get on social media, that maybe they overestimated their importance, perhaps based on some of the information of the likes, the follows, the retweets?
Yeah, even if this didn't happen, and even if all those counts were real, I still believe that they overestimate. But yeah, even more so, I think many of them overestimate how impactful they are. It's not to say that X isn't real life. It's a sliver of real life. Like I said, I think the last number I saw was like less than 5% of Americans are actually on X, right? And so you can be incredibly popular on X and roam around this earth and no one else knows who you are, right? It is very possible because it's just a sliver. I think what's important is what's happening outside of X. What is your immediate area? And if you're a politician, let's say if you're a governor, if you're a congressman or something to that effect, what actually should matter more to you is what are your constituents saying to you, not what the random account on X is calling you a name about or is clapping for you about, because those people don't matter in your particular world. So yeah, I honestly kind of wish that politicians weren't on social media. I don't,
good point. I bet a lot of people agree with you on that.
Yeah, I don't think it's been a net positive for them. Have there been some sort of revelations and some sort of help? Yes, no, in some areas, but I think it's more of a distraction. I think it gives them a false sense of importance. But that's just me.
I love it, Adam. That's why we love having you as a guest on this show.
Thank you.
Adam, tell us a little bit about what you're working on these days and share with our audience where they can follow you online, friend.
Yeah, I'm most active on X at wrong_speak. Check out my Substack, adambcoleman.substack.com. And I do have a YouTube channel. I'm getting more into short documentaries. I have one we were just talking about. It's Travel Love Story. I think we need more love stories out there. So you can go to my YouTube channel for Wrong Speak Media at wrong_speak.
Yeah, my wife Stephanie loves them, and so keep putting them out, because I'm sure that the ladies in the chat, if they haven't seen them, they'll probably enjoy them as well. Adam, have a wonderful day. Thanks for all you do for freedom, and we love your work. So please come back and join us again real soon.
Anytime. God bless.
You too. Bye-bye. That was sent from Pakistan, Bangladesh, South Asia. Here's the thing, guys. If you are doing Christmas shopping this year and you want to get your presents on time, we have 30 days until Christmas, which means that packages are flying out the door, and they may or may not arrive in time for Christmas if you don't order as soon as possible. We can still guarantee Christmas delivery for our gifts, but you gotta go buy them today. Don't be like a lot of people and procrastinate and think you're gonna get your awesome For Liberty Shop products by the time Christmas morning arrives. And don't you want to have your gifts arrive for the lovely Liberty lady in your life? If you go to forlibertyshop.com this morning and do a little Christmas shopping, throw some boxes of Founding Flavors coffee in. Every box that you throw in adds in the savings up to 4. Like Andy Opperman this morning went and bought 4 boxes of Martha's Mint. He saved $12 on that transaction. If you want to see the latest and greatest, click on the latest product drops. Do you have a lovely Liberty lady in your life? Would she love a pretty, excuse me, We the People bar necklace? Ask yourself, is she like a nice little personalized 1776 charm, silver or gold? For the mom in your life, we've got the patriotic patchwork designed by Stephanie, and the dad in your life, the dad firearm shirt. Beautiful. Come back with a warrant doormats, sure to astound. At 4libertyshop.com, our pineapple earrings available. Buy 2, save 15. Look at this. Come over here. Pineapple before earrings. Let's say we want to put the pineapple earrings in there. We want to put another pair of earrings in there. Make sure that you use that code. Buy 2, get 15. You'll save 15% at 4libertyshop.com. You'll save a lot of money. So make sure you exit to the Grift Shop, and we'll see you right back again here tomorrow on the Wake Up America show and the 4 Liberty Network.
Everyone is talking about the affordability crisis. It can't be solved. Trump and Mamdani both campaigned on affordability, but the issue is amorphous and poorly defined. President Trump has been looking for someone to blame for all the affordability crisis chatter that is dragging on his presidency. On Friday, he came face-to-face with him in the Oval Office. While the affordability crisis might not be a Democratic con job, as Trump once claimed, it certainly dominates the vibes, and no one embodies the vibes better than Zohran Mamdani, who was elected mayor of New York City this month. Mamdani, like the Democratic candidates for governor in New Jersey and Virginia, campaigned single-mindedly on affordability. He was still at it Friday. Asked, with Trump at his side, about the Middle East or whether Trump is a fascist, Mamdani kept returning to the affordability agenda and the cost of living crisis. But getting elected on vibes is one thing, solving them is another. And that's the problem with the affordability crisis. What started as a serious but short-lived spike in inflation from 2021 to 2023 has evolved into something broader and more amorphous. Like the climate crisis or the crisis of democratic legitimacy, the affordability crisis has become an umbrella term for countless loosely connected phenomena. Like those other crises, this one defies definition, and thus resolution. Affordability isn't a synonym for inflation, which is the rate of change in the overall price level. Inflation reached 9% in mid-2022, but was down to 3% in September. Though it is above the Federal Reserve's preferred 2%, that 1 percentage point difference is probably not the crisis people have in mind. Strictly speaking, affordability means having the resources to pay for goods and services at current prices. By that standard, the simplest metric is real, i.e., after inflation incomes. Real incomes fell behind when inflation shot up, then recovered as inflation receded and wages caught up. Real personal income was up 2.3% in the year through August, and real hourly wages climbed 0.8% in the year through September, both in line with the 19-year average. Clearly, the affordability crisis can't be captured by such macroeconomic measures. It is an amalgam of microeconomic irritants that vary by individual time and place. Because there is always something going up in price or someone whose incomes are suffering, affordability is an especially potent issue for political challengers such as Trump and Mamdani, who have a gift for zeroing in on whatever is most salient to voters. Trump relentlessly bashed President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, the Democratic nominee last year, over the price of groceries and gasoline. That some of it wasn't true. Bacon is up 5 times. Didn't matter. The attacks resonated. When Trump returned to office, the public was obsessed with eggs, whose price had doubled in the prior year, as flocks were culled to contain avian flu. The price has since fallen sharply, as Trump and his surrogates regularly point out. But the public's attention has moved elsewhere, most notably to beef and coffee. As a campaigner, Trump loved to talk about gasoline because its price had risen under Biden, though it fell from its peaks after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. And more production of fossil fuels was one of his central policies. Since January, gas prices have indeed dropped. But the newly salient issue is rising electricity rates. There's nothing any elected official can do to solve the affordability crisis reliably. As Biden learned, people don't want lower inflation, i.e., prices to rise more slowly. They want prices to fall. Trump promised they would. Overall prices haven't fallen and almost certainly won't. For prices merely to stop rising for a year, i.e., an inflation rate of 0, would probably require a deep recession. Overall prices haven't fallen materially since the Great Depression. Individual actions such as reduced regulation on energy production and infrastructure and capping certain drug prices will help at the margin, but tariffs do the opposite, as Trump seems to have acknowledged by rolling some back. New York City rent levels have been a long-time concern. Housing is especially hard to solve. It has become much more expensive since the pandemic. From 2008 through 2021, mortgage rates were abnormally low, a product of very low inflation and aggressive Federal Reserve policies, which boosted home prices. Mortgage rates have since returned to pre-2008 norms, but housing prices haven't yet adjusted downward, so monthly payments remain high, especially for first-time buyers. That is slowly changing. New home prices have slipped for the past few years, existing home prices have stopped rising, and mortgage rates are down 0.5 percentage point in the past year. Housing affordability is now slightly below its pre-2008 average, according to the National Association of Realtors, so room for improvement is limited. Trump wants to stack the Fed with loyalists who will slash interest rates, but that wouldn't return mortgage costs to pre-pandemic lows absent a much worse economy. And a politicized Fed would ultimately lead to higher inflation and rates. Ma'am Danny, like Trump, frames affordability in memorable terms. We're in the wealthiest city in the history of the world, and yet 1 in 5 can't afford $2.90 for a Metro card, he declared Friday, a convenient way to justify his proposal for free buses.